Good evening, everyone. As Lee cracks open a cold one, as Stone Cold would say,
Oh, hell yeah.
we come live to you on the platform that we call YouTube. So yeah, that was my waffle out of the way. So obviously we're here to talk about what's happened this week. There's been some good, some very bad, and some in the middle. I've given you all possible scenarios there, so it doesn't really make much sense. Other than that, we have Leon with me for a little bit. How are you doing?
I'm all right, mate. My day's been extremely busy from about getting up about 5 o'clock this morning to pretty much having my break at work, putting my Gooner Gathering hat on for editing purposes, etc. This man to my left here was kind enough to drop a video on my channel today, so I thought I'd return the favour for as much as I can tonight. So it's been a very busy one.
In the grace words of commentator, I think we should add the good God Almighty into that.
Good God Almighty!
Because that's not something that that I would like to be on the receiving end of.
It's all good, mate. I love doing what we do, and it's always fun being on these streams with you. So let's talk about, as the words of Jen or Jen Louise from Cultaholic, let's have a look at this week in the wrestling.
Yeah, well, we start off not particularly in this week, but really quickly we had TNA Genesis that was in between all of this happening last week. Probably before the announcement of NXT getting involved, without being too horrible to TNA. Nobody was probably, I was tuning in because I do watch their pay-per-views because I think they're quite fun and different. But lots of people would not be tuning in to this pay-per-view, even though it's one of their biggest ones. But obviously NXT came knocking, and everybody was intrigued as to who was coming on. So we did have, when there was a tag team match between the Rascals and Matt Hardy, Nathan Fraser and Axiom did come out, obviously the NXT tag team titles holders. Although the Hardys did retain the title, the Rascals had some outside beef with Nathan Fraser and Axiom, which led to them facing them on the first live TNA show in 8 years. That blew my mind when I found that out, that they haven't had a live show and it's all been pre-taped from in the 8 years previous. But yeah, that was that. We did have, I don't know if I sent you this and you saw it, Lee. Rosemary did get Janice from underneath the ring, which was the calling card and the weapon of Abyss, because Abyss trained Rosemary in her come up.
Okay.
So that came out, and it was between her and Master Slamovich it was like a hardcore match. There was weapons hung around the top of the ring and all sorts. It was so much fun. So Slamovich obviously retained the title, but then Cora Jade came out at the end of that match to go face to face with her. So watch that space on that one. And then we had the big news of the evening, which was Joe Hendry winning the title. Obviously, he's been in loads of matches between Nick Nemeth over the last so many title matches, and it was finally his time to do it.
Yeah, good.
So that's that. But then we did have the less exciting news of the fact that Jordana Grace and Josh Alexander both fully officially said they're done with TNA after this review. So some not great news, but obviously they're too good to be sat on the shelf for too long, so they'll be somewhere else very quickly.
Well, I understand Grace has been linking up at the Performance Centre, hasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Fully expect to see her all at the Rumble, to be honest, next Saturday.
Yeah, certainly one of the best performers in last year's Women's Rumble as well.
From number 5 as well. She was brilliant.
Yeah. that was when Devon didn't really watch the product at all and watched it with me and Kyle and said, "Oh, who's this?" Because she was that good and that standout. So I think that's volumes really for her. Obviously, she's not been having the best of times at TNA since losing the title. She's been in a couple of feuds, but nothing really of any great relevance. So I suppose that's why she wants that move to somewhere else.
She was given a lovely send-off then, though, Sam, wasn't she? She was given a nice sort of forever TNA champion or something belt, which was a lovely little gift just to remember them by. And with the, obviously we know that WWE and TNA are collaborating very much. So I wouldn't rule out seeing her pop down at TNA at some stage. I wouldn't rule that out in the slightest.
Yeah, a bit like Bayley's doing with NXT at the moment, potentially. Yeah. But yeah, that's that. So at the end of that, we came to obviously this week's Raw.
Yeah.
My first note is that Michael Cole Yeaton again gets greater week by week when Pat McAfee's always telling him to calm down. And that's such a role switch, isn't it? Because it's normally the other way around, where Michael Cole is telling Pat to calm down. So that role switch and the chemistry that they have with each other is out of this world, to be honest.
Can I tell you, I had great pleasure in seeing one of my customers in my day job having a main event Jey Uso shirt on, and I literally started doing the whole thing down the produce aisle. I couldn't help myself, Sam. I wished I filmed it.
Yeah, it's those moments, isn't it, that bring people together that are probably outcast to the rest of society because they still watch wrestling and they should have grown out of it when they were 15.
Shut your face, mate. I still love it at 40 plus years old, mate. I don't care.
I don't. Yeah, I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So yeah, Jey Uso obviously started the show, but is quickly interrupted by Gunther, who used some amazing mic work to call him a funny little man.
I sense you're being sarcastic there, Sam. That's unlike you.
Yeah, I don't really think Jey Uso's that small, to be honest. So I don't really think it had any relevance, to be honest. Jey Uso, that was after Jey Uso
fell a bit flat, is what you're saying, right?
A little bit, yeah.
And then Jey responded with a fantastic response saying, well, last time I checked, one of us headlined WrestleMania last year, and it weren't you.
It was, yeah. So I've put that. I think I'm going to skip the rest of it because basically all I put was that promo was saved by Jey right at the end with that mic drop moment.
And a bit of a brawl at the end as well, didn't they? Lived into whatever happened at Saturday night's main event, which sadly I do not know.
Much like this is a spoiler, not a prediction.
Right.
Very much exactly like the same that last time Saturday's night main event came around, in that no titles changed. So it was a carbon copy, which is a little bit disappointing, but I'll give my words on that a little bit later. So JBL came back this week to commentate on a New Day match. I don't normally watch the segments in between, but I thought, do you know what? This week I'm going to. So
this is interesting. This is Bradshaw's first time in WWE in, a couple of years?
I think so. He was recently in...
he's in TNA, wasn't he? Working with... I've seen him interacting with Nemeth and over for the world title, right?
I also saw him at that horrendous Royal Rumble that I was telling you about, where Mick Foley came in as Cactus Jack. That was the best moment of the whole thing.
Dude Love.
Yeah, Dude Love, that's it, sorry. That was the best moment of that men's and women's match, which says a lot.
Have mercy, Sam.
So JBL was back to greet the New Day. I really love this piece of wrestling. Well, this piece of content, to be fair. They basically, what Kofi Kingston does is tries to put like a couple of dollars in his top pocket. And and to basically say bribing them into singing their praises into the match.
Okay.
JBL's answer is that I've got you guys because of Big E. I don't blame you. With all those big muscles and all that charisma and personality, everywhere you go, everyone must love that guy. They've got to pay attention to you, I guess. And then Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods kind of stormed off in a huff.
Right.
And then JBL shouted, "Do you want me to keep that $2?" So I thought that was a fantastic little fun segment between the match.
Brilliant.
So obviously the match was Ray and Kofi Kingston. I was really surprised, actually. JBL, normally when somebody returns that has been a key part of wrestling, and I believe he was quite widely liked by most people, although he was a little bit of a heel.
Very, very popular backstage, apparently.
He didn't really get any reception at all.
Really?
No, there was a few tiny little cheers, but I noted that there wasn't any really reaction at all when he came out, because obviously they give them the entrance. I think Kofi already came out, and then in between Ray coming out, they put him in the middle, and he didn't really get any reaction at all. It was just kind of like a local jobber had come out that nobody knew the name of. So that was a little bit of a shame.
It deserves a bit better than that, to be honest, because
I think so.
The someone who's a little bit older than some of the generation that might be watching this show right now, I can tell you that Bradshaw's transitioning from a tag team wrestler up to world heavyweight champion in an era which was very difficult for SmackDown. He did a tremendous job as a heel. He was fantastic at what he did over there. And his matches with Guerrero in particular really, really stand out in my mind. Maybe not necessarily all good, but it was all, it was certainly amongst some of the most gruesome wrestling matches I've ever seen. Great American Bash, I think you need to go to, guys.
From the bits that I've seen, obviously on the various DVDs that I have, the sense that I got with the limited amount of wrestling and mic work was that his mic work kind of what he was. In essence, I'm not saying that's not to say that the wrestling matches were bad. It's just that I think probably his mic work stood out more than his, like, the character that he was stood out maybe more than the matches that he had.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
So Bayley's promo about SmackDown NXT and facing Nia Jax, she announces that she's entering the Rumble. I'm getting really bored of saying all of these because we're going to have all 30 before we get there on Saturday.
No, we won't. There'll be some surprises, Sam. Don't be so cynical.
This was quite a fun segment, but I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There was professional bull riders in the crowd. They skipped on past them and said, "This is the champion bull rider. This is another bull rider, and this is the professional bull rider announcer." And then they quickly skipped back to the wrestling. That was the most bizarre bit of wrestling I think I've seen all week, to be honest. Wrestling content, I should say.
Fantastic. But I could probably throw a joke in, but it might sort of go against my my good guy persona. I don't want that happening again.
Maybe you can turn heel, but it's maybe for a day when we've got a little bit more time.
Possibly.
So I'm going to do a little bit of a skip to the moment that you saw. Let me get down there because there we are. So CM Punk.
Yes.
One of the most surprising bits of wrestling content that we'll probably see this whole year. If anyone said that they expected this to happen, then they're really, really lying to you. So he came out through the crowd and kind of addressed the WWE universe in the crowd whilst being interviewed, which I thought was really good. They don't often do that where somebody's like in amongst the crowd interviewing them. So I thought that was really nice and something different that they did. So basically, the big question that he was asked is what makes this, obviously you've never won the Rumble before, what makes this Rumble different for CM Punk? So in comes the answer that shocks the whole entire wrestling world. For the good or for the better?
Great of good.
We'll find that out. So history, main event, Monday night. And so basically he's made history. Main event in the Monday Night Raw on Netflix, beating Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
When he walks into the Rumble, he'll throw 29 people over the top rope, as everyone says at this period. But this is where things change a little bit. So he said, I can't see John Cena throwing me over the top rope, which is a little in joke for the wrestling fans. Roman Reigns needed my help at War Games, so that he's not going to be an object to me. He put Drew in the dirt. Sami Zayn's not on his level. And he said, God, you can even put Hulk Hogan in the Rumble, and I'll throw his dusty ass over the top rope, and I will kill Hulkamania once and for all, was his exact words. I'll just finish it off, and then I'll pass it over.
Yeah.
First, in living colour, my name is CM Punk. I'm settling scores. And cashing in debts, and I may even call a favour in too. At the end of the night, 29 superstars are going night, and one man will get his hand raised. One name, 3 syllables, CM Punk. So brilliant. I've put one sentence after that summed it up. I put short, sharp, an incredible promo showing everyone else how it's done and how simple it can be. I'm going to pass it over to you, Lee.
So old school as well. Kept it nice and simple, kept it concise and to the point, and hilarious. He brought the Dusty Hulk Hogan name out as well, especially on the back of what happened 2 weeks ago. I love this. Talk about get people on board for Punk winning the Rumble, which would mean, in theory, he goes and finally headline WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I absolutely 100% love that. So good.
Yeah, I didn't have a winner in my head at all before this promo. But if that didn't convince you as to who you want to win the Rumble this year, I don't think anybody would be able to do that. Absolutely. So I think that was Although here's a controversial thing, that wasn't my favorite bit of wrestling content that we've had all week.
Oh yeah,
it was a very close second, but it wasn't my favorite. Which, while you're here, I might as well skip to, just to tell you to go and watch it if you can. So, at the start of AEW Dynamite, for anybody that has just joined in, we have just gone straight from Raw to AEW.
That was an unexpected jump, my end.
Yeah, you didn't see it coming, but it happens on this channel. So,
promise you'll know. It's the big show.
So at the start of the show, Will and Kenny Omega went face to face.
Amazing.
So they found, basically what inspired is they found common enemies for Grand Slam. So Will, first of all, tried to play it nice, but Kenny said that he would never trust him. But then what happened is that Don Callis came out and the family came out, and a brawl around the whole arena went on. Saw some amazing spots. It was almost like a backstage brawl on one of the old wrestling games. And it just went nuts. So after that, they do these unbelievable dives off the side of the rail where where the seats separate backwards. Both of them did it. And then they both climbed up to one of the support beams together, which are massively high up. So they were kind of overlooking the whole arena. He then said that Kenny admitted that he can now trust Will, obviously in terms of kayfabe, He didn't just change his mind in 5 minutes. It was all for the greater good. So they climbed up the support beams together. It was quite funny because Kenny Omega towards the end went, right, can we actually get down now? Because I'm really frightened of heights. But basically, Kenny admitted that he could trust him and laid out the challenge to Keshler and Carl Fletcher at Grand Slam that they would go against them. Obviously, if people don't know the story, both Will and Kenny were part of the Don Callis family, so that's where they have this relevance to this story. I'll try and find, because I imagine there's just a video with that part of the show. I'll try and find it because it was so much fun. But yeah, that's leading you on to your show. It's nearly
I've got. So unfortunately, guys, I have to disappear over to my own channel. I've got about 3 minutes to go until I'm on Gooner Gathering. Stay here and watch Sam talk about Wrestle Dogs and come over to Gooner Gathering after Sam's done. I wanted to help Sam out tonight because he's helped me out on my channel. So, Sam, I'll say thank you very much for having me. And I will see you guys around very, very soon. You can find me at Gooner Lee Meads, and you can find me at Gooner Gathering on Twitter or X. And good luck for the rest of the show. My people need me now.
Yeah, you might even see me for 5 minutes. So when you come off here, you can join me up there.
All
okay.
Right, cheers. See you later. Bye. Cheers, mate.
Let's get to the rest of it. Let me just look at some comments first. Honestly, thought the Sami Zayn. I think that kind of like I get what you mean, but I think obviously that was the standout moment. Was that of that? I think the whole promo was wild. Does Gunther make it to WrestleMania as champion? What do you think? I was hoping, and that was my one hope, that Jay would win the title at Saturday Night's main event, but he didn't, which makes me think, do they trust him to be a main eventer, or is he just kind of a gimmick to them? Let me know what you think. That's my brief thoughts on it. Let me see where I was up to. So I'm going to skip over the Ray and Kofi match because there was not really much to it. So what we kind of hoped wouldn't happen has happened, in that it went to Chad Gable in the back, and he said that it was embarrassing losing to Penta. So he's spoken to someone who knows a little bit about Lucha Libre on the show last week. This is really what we hoped wouldn't happen, but it looks like it's coming to power. And that person was Dominic Mysterio. On my notes, I've just put Sai because I really didn't hope this would happen, but it looks like it is. So he's helping with my lucha problems. I just put again, good Lord. Had a bit of a pointless promo with carrying Cross in the crowd. Then we had Sami Zayn coming out to the ring and basically saying that he's entering into the Royal Rumble. I'm kind of losing count of the people that are entering now. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be more this evening as well. He talks about what Seth said to him last week, and he needs to look after himself more. He then hit a promo about being always wanted to be a wrestling superstar, and that this championship was something that he's never won. KO then came out and basically said, I think you can win it. You're a good person. And then when I come back out of the Royal Rumble, you can fight me for my title. And that way we can main event WrestleMania against each other. Half of that was really good. Half of that was really meh. Sheamus talked about his career and talked about his obsession with winning the IC title. That's the last championship he's never won. But Braun Breaker comes face to face to him and talks a load of rubbish, obviously, like, I'm going to beat you at the weekend. Nia versus Bayley. Nia wins, but obviously Rhea comes out after the match, and says, "You and me, Saturday night's main event." So that was that. Chad Gable goes to the back and speaks to Dom. Dom passes him a number, which tells him that that's someone that will help you to learn Lucha Libre. Yeah, I think the less I say about that, the better, because I'm just really disappointed. So, Pete Dunne versus Penta, really great match to watch. Rev Pro got a mention as well, which wasn't on my bingo card for 25. Finally, a War Raiders match, which again we've been calling for, against JD and Dominic Mysterio for next week. There was the main event, which was a strong match to watch. Seth won it, but then Drew tries to injure Seth. Sammy comes in with a save. Drew gets hold of Seth. Sammy tries to make the save again, but Drew gets out of the way, and Sammy kicks Seth in the head instead of Drew, which adds storyline elements, of course. So my overall, I put not quite up to the level of the last Raw, but it was bound to be this way as they didn't have the debut of Penta, the IC women's title match, and the street fight. But nevertheless, I thought it was still a really good Raw. Two great in-ring matches with lots of strong segments outside of the match, and obviously CM Punk's promo being the best moment of the night by far. It's obviously staying strong in the minefield that is SmackDown. Speaking of SmackDown, I'll go to that next. Haven't got like play-by-play of it because there wasn't really anything to report. So I just put that 3 hours is really starting to feel like a huge mistake. Tag team match between Pretty Deadly and Machine Gun. Motor City Machine Gun was the best moment again, which doesn't bode well that 2 weeks in a row your best moment was 2 tag matches that both weren't for titles. So yeah, we'll obviously see how it goes. They've got to obviously do better with Mania coming up. The other moment was the video package with Charlotte Flair, but it was hard to tell if she was going to come back as a babyface or a heel. I guess we'll skip on to Saturday night's main event then. Like I mentioned before, no titles changed hands. So I was really disappointed with the show as a whole. It kind of makes it feel like a copy to the last one, in the fact that no titles changed as well. I think some parts of the matches were better than the last time, but it still felt like there was lots of filler and not really much substance to things. Obviously, Gunther beats Jay, Braun beat Sheamus, which was probably the best match out of the lot. Rhea beat Nia, and Jacob Fatu beat Braun, and then thrown in was a contract signing for the ladder match at Royal Rumble. So obviously we're on the eve of that. So in terms of what we had a really good Raw, a terrible, if not unwatchable SmackDown, and an NXT in the middle that had 3 title matches, promised a lot but didn't really deliver. Not to say that it was bad, but I just think they could have done a lot better. I guess the main thing from NXT was Corey Graves on commentary, and saying he's right where he wants to be, which kind of makes fans more confused as to what's going on with him. Tony D'Angelo retained the North American title. Lexis King retained the Heritage Cup with a low blow, and Obafemi retained his title as well. So leads us on to Dynamite. I've obviously spoke about what's happened for the start of the show. We then had the Tag Team Championship against Private Party and the Hurt Syndicate. I've put that it felt cruel on Private Party when they've just won the titles for them to lose them. Hurt Syndicate, although it looked better, it still looks a little bit all over the place. It wasn't a terrible match. It was just the timing for the result seemed to be a little bit off, because I would have had Private Party stay as champs a bit longer, Hurt Syndicate to streamline themselves and get better as a tag team or as a free, whatever you would call it, and then give them the title. That seems more appropriate. But obviously, I don't book these things. Claudio agrees to fight Jeff Jarrett next week. Jeff Jarrett apologizes for last week's promo, which he should. It was the most horrendous promo probably of this year, even though it's really early, and promised to deal with MJF off the cameras. He then called out Jon Moxley, but Castagnoli attacked him from behind and agreed to the match next week. If Jeff Jarrett wins, he gets a title shot. I've still got Guna Gathering up, so they've got more promo than normal, which is okay, but I think I should take them down. So just sending it the video evidence to Lee. They're still there. Let me go back to the banners and take this out. Guna Gathering will disappear in a moment, and up will come what we're speaking about currently, which is AEW, which is not on my thing, so it's all going well and smooth. So we next went to Swerve and AR Fox. Ricochet distracted Swerve, but Prince Nana ran him away. Because of this, there was nearly an upset, but Swerve managed to come back away with the win. Ricochet interrupted the celebration and threatened Nana with scissors and promised to speak about his mind next week. There was then a terrible part of the show that was basically Hangman Adam Page versus a local competitor. That local competitor didn't even get a name, which I think is not very good at all. So MJF interrupts to deliver a strong warning to Jeff Jarrett that he will come crawling back to him after Claudio breathes his brains in. Weird choice of words, but MJF's mic work is clearly in the mud at the moment. So yeah, did I expect anything else? Probably not. So Adam Page obviously makes quick work of this one. Christopher Daniels comes out after the match in a neck brace to announce his retirement, like we reported a couple of weeks ago after that Texas Death match. Julia Hart versus Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter won that one. And then we get to the main event of the evening, which was Cope versus Pac. Pac tried to injure Edge, focusing on his neck, but he hit a few spears into a TKO and managed to pick up the win. The Death Riders then revealed that they attacked the Rock and Roll Express in the back and they tied up FDR. They headed to the ring to attack Cope, but Jay White made the save until he got battered too. White was held down while Mox choked out Cope, with a bulldog joke until he passed out, with the promise of that he would break his neck the next time he didn't back off. So I thought that was a great main event, and a great story building purposes for that story. So this is where AEW gets a glowing review. I've put that's the best show AEW have done in 2025 so far. It's a great build for each of the stories in pretty much all the segments. People were given time. That was mainly probably down due to the travel issues that they had with some of the roster. But that actually worked well because it allowed each moment to kind of shine. I've kind of put, keep this up, AEW. So this is where this little stream ends, I think, because I've gone through everything. Obviously, between now and the Rumble, you might not see us until Rumble evening, where we are going to be live streaming it for you all. So hopefully see some of you there for that. But yeah, until then, enjoy your weeks, and we'll see you on Saturday evening.